Attention listeners, AfterSight's annual hike is coming up on July 27th.
It was a really good experience for me.
Visit aftersight.org/hike and become an audio trekker today.
That hike today gave me so much courage.
Hey, you're listening to Blindsight. Let's go. Mental health isn't something to take lightly. It's time to fight. It's time to thrive. Let's do this. Hello, everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode of Blindsight. You're listening to part 2 with Heather Solberg of the VA, and just wanted to thank you guys so much for listening to Blindsight. Happy 4th of July. Actually, post 4th of July by the time this is airing. I hope everybody had an amazing day and week, and thank you to all of the veterans who have protected our country over the years, past, present, and future. All right, we're going to dive back into this, but before we do, I want to mention the hike coming up on July 27th. Make sure that you register for that at aftersight.org/hike. And with that being said, here is Bill and Heather.
The thing that I've heard the most from people is just like, I used to be able to be independent. Now I have this vision loss and I can't do anything. Mm-hmm. And frankly, sometimes I may, even after all these years, I may still get caught, I can't do this, whine. And yeah, but it is part of the package to kind of the self-acceptance. Mm-hmm. And also the encouragement. One of the things about depression, it's all or nothing thinking. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can't do this, therefore I can't do anything.
Yeah.
And in the grief and loss paradigm, we get into the same kind of thing. I used to be able to X, Y, Z, and now I can't anymore, and that means I'm totally worthless. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's that's where we start to get into the mental health issue.
Yeah.
With it just as a natural part of coming to acceptance of one vision loss.
Yeah. Yeah. And the self-esteem, and self-worth, like you said, is a big part of it, and trying to keep that, trying to build that up and trying to, work with the veteran to see that they can do some things again, Mm-hmm. And I think also it's those phases are come and go. I've had veterans tell me, especially after this last group that we did, some days I feel like I can, tackle the world. And then other days I feel like, I go back down to grieving, and, some days I'm accepting my vision loss, and then the next day or the next week I'm back to grieving the loss and feeling like I'm not doing as much as I should be, or can't do anything,
Right. You can't do anything at all.
Yeah. So it's a never ending, process. And that's another thing we talk about a lot.
And must also be difficult at times to get the veteran who may not have been 100% sold on the idea of coming to your program to get him to, or her, to say, okay, this will help me feel better about myself when I can do the things in the way that you can teach me.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. That's kind of what part of my job is to try to be a little bit of a cheerleader. And I know that sounds cheesy, but just trying to encourage veterans to come to the program the first time. It's scary. It's very scary when you talk about, I have to travel all the way to Arizona, or gosh, I have to stay in Denver for 5 days, and they might be, from Wyoming or Montana or, Southern Colorado or Western Colorado. So, it's important to find other veterans who have went through the program and have had, experiences that have helped them with that adjustment process. So it's nice to have some of those ambassadors, I guess you could call them, veterans who have went through the training and know what it feels like. So that's always nice to have peers too.
How do you have a system for connecting newbies, as we used to call them, to people who've been through the ropes, and to kind of let them feel not quite so alone?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we try to do with our groups, is definitely, so we have a resource group that we do once a month online. And so we try to get people we encourage people to just jump on, even if they don't talk, just to come on and listen. And some of our veterans that have been in the program for a while are on there too. I feel like that helps in our adjustment group. But when I do annual reviews, when I reach out to veterans once a year,
Right.
I also ask them, would you want to be a mentor? Especially the veterans I've known for years. Sometimes I'll ask them, hey, you're doing pretty good, and you've gotten some training under your belt. Would you like to be a mentor? And, veterans are really honest with me and say yes or no. And then, when I meet a new person, I always reach out to the veteran that said they'd be a mentor and be like, would you be willing to do this, and try to connect them that way. And it really, going back to what you were talking about with rural veterans, this is a great way to get them to not feel so isolated.
Yeah, and I think that's one big piece of helping people to feel better about any disability. If we were talking to people who are making it, and been around, and it's like we talk about in 12-step programs, when you have some a sponsor, and you have people to tell you what it was like for them, and this is where they are now. That is so encouraging.
Absolutely. I mean, no one can tell you, what you're going through, but someone who's been through it might be able to, empathize a little bit better than someone who hasn't. So, yeah, it's always an important peer support. And that's why I love doing the adjustment groups. I just loved seeing all the veterans, kind of come together and lean on each other. And that's kind of the goal by the end, is that maybe they exchange numbers and lean on each other after that. Because, like you said, we have a lot of veterans on our caseload. And so it would be nice for veterans to be able to lean on other veterans sometimes. So
you have like a Facebook page where people can hook in, through technology, to hook in with each other?
We don't. In the VA, I don't even know if we're allowed to do that piece of it.
Yeah,
but we are. We try to encourage them to hook up, and that's why we use those adjustment groups, is for that kind of way of doing it. And then the resource
informally,
group,
that you're not doing it, but they,
right,
they can do it for themselves.
Right. And maybe hooking them up with someone who has, been visually impaired a little bit longer, or who's went through the program. I hope that helps a little bit, something I can do on the side to collaborate for them.
Is there any particular, I'll say, diagnosis that you see a lot of right now, or?
There's a few of them. We're seeing macular degeneration, is a big one for our group. And we also see diabetic retinopathy, with Vietnam veterans and, Agent Orange and things like that. We also, glaucoma. We actually have quite a few cases of glaucoma. And then, there's other, of course, like retinitis pigmentosa, that has developed when they were in the military.
or become obvious
it
when
becomes
they were
obvious in the military. And so we see some, RP veterans, and then other diagnoses that are just outlying. We get quite a few, but those are the main ones.
Do you get people who, in fact, have had in the military during service have lost their vision due to something having to do with if they've been in battle or they've been or even accidental, where it's a sudden traumatic loss of vision?
We do see veterans that has happened, but they're not as many as as veterans who have developed eye diseases
Right.
later. But we do see, we do definitely see some of those too.
Now, do you just treat them as you would the rest of the group, or and is there a time where they have to be out, kind of deal with? Because, the trauma is hard to deal with in addition to the specifics of vision loss.
We actually, if most of the time, the veteran, the Department of Defense will already have sent that person to training, to like an intensive inpatient training, before they even come back to the state that they want to live in. So
I see. Okay.
So they've already started that training right away. So I would say that's a great thing that they do for them, is just make sure that they get some of that training before they even come back to our area. And then, of course, we do follow up and make sure that they have everything they need, and more training if they need it. That's our job to make sure that is a smooth transition. And so that's why I say, like, a lot of, we don't see them right after they get out and they haven't had any training or any, intervention. So,
but someone who's had an auto accident, for example, who's a veteran, has the same kind of may have the same kind of trauma reaction, or even shall we say, beat themselves up because of somehow they caused it. And that's something that I would think, just talking in generalities, would be a combination for both mental health department and your department.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah.
See, what I'm hearing from you, which I think is real important, that you, by letting the vet know that they're not helpless, you're giving them hope. And that's crucial.
Yeah. Yeah. And support, I would say. Hope and support. I feel like just in any general, the VA is definitely a big beast, and it's in the sense that there's so many departments and so many ways to get in touch with people, that I think it's nice for veterans with vision loss to have a program that they can contact. And so that support and the hope that they can have this training and get the help that they need. So I would agree with that totally.
What you're describing to me, and to be perfectly honest, being on the outside, there's a lot of negative press about the VA system. And it must be hard for you working there and seeing it in a totally different light. And I'm not quite sure why that kind of negative press. I guess maybe more rumor or whatever, people who might be dissatisfied from one piece to another. And I hope by your being here can help dispel that negative thing that may happen. It just, I'm sure you're all overextended because everybody else is.
And I agree. I really appreciate you having me on to be able to talk about, what services we offer at the VA because um, I have met so many wonderful people that work for the VA and that truly care for the veterans. And so if any veterans listening to us, I hope that they come away and think, "Oh gosh, well maybe there are programs that can help me there." And they you know, um put some faith in us to be able to help them because I just I love working at the VA and I love working with veterans and this is what I was meant to do, not even knowing when I was younger that this is what I was meant to do. But I love it so much. And yeah, I want every veteran to get our services that needs it. It's something that sometimes in the private sector that's not available to some people.
Yeah, that's the issue is
Yeah.
trying to make sure that people, no matter who they are, they're getting the services they need. And if they're a veteran,
Yeah.
here's something that's really sounds like it's really workable.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. It's definitely a great I am very happy that they rolled out the continuum of care for veterans to have low vision services or visual impairment services because that was something that was needed a long time ago. They did have VIST coordinators, they had case managers in a lot of areas, but they just didn't have the programs that they do now. So it's been great to see it blossom.
What do you think made the difference? How did, was it some senator who says we must have visual services? I doubt it, but,
I don't even know. That's a good question. I was hired shortly after it rolled out, but I don't even know. I don't think I've ever thought about like what started.
Mhm.
I should know, right? But I don't. I don't know.
And yet, for those of us in the blindness community, we say, why didn't you think of it earlier?
I know. I know, right? And what I wish again, like in the private sector, I really wish that there was more programs like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what you're describing is very comprehensive.
Hmm.
And I think the having the family involved is
Hmm.
crucial.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep.
'Cause I,
And making sure the caregiver, if there is a caregiver, because, we're not just talking about vision loss for some of these guys and gals. We're talking about, you know, a lot of extensive medical problems on top
mm-hmm,
of vision loss, and maybe vision loss isn't even their biggest issue at the
right,
moment.
right.
So we just try to be there and supportive and, the caregiver is easily could be burned out, so it's a good support to be able to say, well, look, the veteran can do this for themselves because,
Right.
vision shouldn't be the blockade for that, and that kind of stuff. So, um, it's an important thing, I think.
And they talk about uh, people coming out of the military having trouble adjusting to civilian life.
Hmm.
And if, in addition to that, gradually they're losing their eyesight
Hmm.
on top of that, plus, as you say, other medical problems they may come in with,
Yeah.
it becomes a very all encompassing kind of issue.
Yeah.
And to have something like the VA and all its resources to help, you know, go in and tackle not just one, but tie it in with others. And I'm assuming
Yeah.
that in all these situations, you're in contact with all the different departments to make sure that they're getting not just a visual
Yeah.
program, but whatever it is they need. Am I hearing that right?
Yes, absolutely. That's part of my job as the case manager is to make sure that they're getting all the needs met for every part of them.
Mm,
And the VA has adopted whole health. And so it's the whole person, not just one part of the person.
I didn't know that. Mm-hmm.
And so it's been a wonderful campaign that they're rolling out. We actually have a whole health coordinator, and so it's important to us that veterans enjoy recreation as someone who's visually impaired. Do what they do something that makes them happy. Making sure they have a say in their healthcare plan, in their treatment plan, those kind of things. So it's been a great process to watch roll out, and we do help with that in our groups too.
Mm-hmm. So in other words, the person who comes in works out with you what his or her goal is for, what do you want to call it, recovery or for adjustment?
Right. Yeah, I mean, we ask them questions, like any evaluation, like we'll ask them questions because sometimes veterans will say, well, I don't know what I don't know, right? They don't know what's available. And so from those questions, the veterans are able to say, oh, yes, I would like to read my mail again. Or, oh, yeah, I would like to do that route to, the King Supers down the street or the grocery store down the street. And so I think it's helpful to them to get to that point where they get to come up with what goals are important to them. And so that's kind of the whole health process, I think.
Now, the VA would help them in acquiring some of the equipment, like, for example, a screen reader for their computer.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. We do an evaluation, like I said, of the veterans' goals, and then we determine what would be best for that. So if that means that just training them, and not needing a device is what would be helpful to them, then that's what we do. If it's a device like a screen reader or a CCTV or a magnifier of some sort, or all kinds of devices out there, right?
Right.
If one of those is, recommended by the therapist that would help with that veteran's goal, then yeah, the VA will purchase it. Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying, the first, and I'm trying to sort of organize it in my mind as a stage kind of process. Where the veteran comes to you, you do an evaluation, you ask questions, you say, what is it that they need, and then you help them establish what it is, what their goal is. And then the next stage is then to kind of organize towards those goals.
Yep. Yeah, and send them to the right programs to address those goals, whatever works for them in their life at that moment. Whether it's going to the visual impairment program here in Denver, out in Aurora, or going to the Blind Rehab Center, down in Tucson, Arizona, where we send most of our veterans in this area.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's a process of being able to come up with those veteran-driven goals, and then, where can we accomplish these? What kind of training would that look like?
And if I guess some of it is convincing, helping the veteran to, as you were saying, understand their goals and put it in some kind of way that it can be actualized to be able to achieve it.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things we can have all kinds of pie in the sky. I want a job,
Yeah.
Well, yeah. What does that mean?
Right.
What does that mean? And what do you need to be able to perform? I want to be an ambulance driver, and the person has RP, there's a little bit of education has to go on.
Absolutely.
In that kind of process.
Yeah. Yeah. A little bit of education and a little bit of, talking them through
reality
and what that would look like and why that might not be a great idea, for that particular time for them. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's all a process, and it's a never-ending process. Again, we follow the veteran through the span of their life. And I did forget to mention, in rural areas, we also have a blind rehab outpatient specialist.
Oh,
So
really?
someone that can go into the home. We call them bros. Again, I'll test you on that later. But so bros is able to go into the veterans' homes, especially for those that are homebound. Right now, it's hard for someone to get everywhere. It's one
Right.
person. So we try to offer that when the veteran is not able to come into the clinic at all, for any of those programs. So that is another opportunity that we offer.
And if somebody begin to adjust their goal, in, let's say, after a year, and during that yearly call that you make,
Mm-hmm.
and comes up with something, is this possible? And if there's something that can be done within your system, you'll do. You'll be able to bring the person back and do some more work to achieve that goal.
Absolutely. Yes.
Wow.
Yep. Yes, we have veterans that we've worked with for years, like I mentioned before, and vision changes, right? It might get
Right.
worse. And so we'll provide them with more training, or maybe a device just isn't working anymore. And so they need to come in and get evaluated for something else. And
Right.
so,
Retirement.
yeah, yeah,
And try to, and in a sense, to maintain their self-esteem
uh-huh,
when they're making adjustments like that.
right. And independence.
And
Yeah,
particularly independence. Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm. Yep. And then if new
Wow.
people come into their life, sometimes it's hard for that person to understand what their vision's like. We're more than
Right.
happy to work with the family members too, along with the veteran.
Like if the veteran meets a new person they want as a wife or a
Mm-hmm.
husband,
Yep.
then even though they've been through the program,
Mm-hmm.
you will be open to having the family members come in and learn about where the boundaries are. This is a word we don't use
Yeah.
very much, but I keep trying to remember to use it. Boundary
Mm-hmm.
between the person with the vision loss
Mm-hmm.
and the person who doesn't have a vision loss,
Yeah.
and would be more than happy to do everything for that person with the vision loss and the resulting kind of giving up trying.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I've seen this time and time again, and that's what we really have to be watchful of.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I think that's why our program is built that way, right? Because it's not a linear process. We have to
Right.
continue
Mm-hmm.
to change and grow and make sure that the veterans' needs are being met, no matter what phase of the process they're in. So,
You've given, certainly for me, it feels like a wonderful picture of the VA and their system and your system, the system that you're a part of. And congratulations.
good.
Is there
Thank you.
some last thing you'd like to leave for anyone who's a veteran who hasn't signed up or who, contemplating the issues that they have,
Mm-hmm.
but don't know where to go?
Yes. I would encourage you to either walk into the VA or call. Call the VA and ask for the low vision program.
Mm-hmm.
You can get through to us one way or the other, but I would encourage you to definitely get enrolled and then just ask. Even the business office, how do I get hooked up with the low vision program? So
Sure.
it's one of those things. I always I think we do have a website. I think there is a website on the VA on va.gov that talks about our low vision program, and it has a phone number
Okay.
out at our clinic. So I would encourage you, if you can use the computer, to search for that, and also just call. You can call the VA and ask for me, Heather Solberg, if you're in the Denver area. So, or Vision 19.
Well, there's one of the things that I almost forgot to mention.
Mhm.
Every once in a while, there are some groups, for example, who've been kicked out of the military. Well, since June was Gay Pride Month, the president had singled out groups of veterans who were kicked out because of gay activity. I'll put it. Not all of them, but some of them have been restored the right to be part of the VA system. And so it would pay for a veteran who thinks maybe, I won't be served, for any vet who isn't sure whether he or she is going to be served, just to find out, just to go in, as you say, and check to see if there's some eligibility that they didn't know they had.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely worth it. I think, especially for veterans who are diagnosed with a vision problem, I think it's very important for you to get services, at least for our program. So just so you know, the VA, once you're eligible for VA services, if you don't want to get a lot of your services in the VA, if you just want to come to the vision loss program, that's acceptable. Like, they let you pick whatever services you want to get through the VA. And then, of course, your other insurance, or supplemental insurance, will cover whatever you want to do outside the VA.
Supplemental.
So
very much.
So we have veterans who just sign up for VA services so that they can get the low vision program.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's fine.
Absolutely. I'd love for veterans to do that so that they can start getting services. And then I think they realize that there's other things that the VA can offer them. So it's really a nice way
and get
for them
some confidence in the VA system.
Yep. A good confidence in the VA and what all, we can do to help. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would encourage any veteran who hasn't signed up for, VA services, to go and check it out. It's like you said, it's worth seeing if you're eligible.
Definitely. Well, Heather, this has been very informative for our members, and we certainly appreciate having you on. With the amount of knowledge that you have of the system and enthusiasm, which isn't always found in a lot of systems that are made available. So you're a real asset to the program.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, and I love my job. I love what I do. So
I can tell.
It helps. So, but I really appreciate you having me on here to talk about our program. I always joke that we are the hidden gem, or the hidden secret to veterans.
Yep.
Well,
hopefully you're not hidden anymore.
I hope not. I hope it's out there. And for I don't know, for anyone that's not in this area, just know you can call your VA locally and ask for the VIST coordinator, VIST coordinator.
VIS coordinator, okay.
And they will hook you up with any low vision services that are in that area. And so it's very helpful to just call and chat with them.
And they don't have to know the name of the within the acronym. They just call it VIS, and the person they talk to will know who they're talking about.
Exactly. Yep. Or just say low vision program or low vision case manager. Just use any of those words, or visual impairment program or visual impairment case manager. But there is always one in there will be a VIST coordinator in every area. So
Great.
I encourage people to definitely take that step and make sure. And we always try to refer veterans who are moving. So maybe they're moving from our area and moving to another area. I always reach out to the VIST coordinator and get services set up for them.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, those of you who've been listening to this. And if you're not a vet, but you know some people who would be, and it sounds like it would help them to be connected, please do so. Be the ambassador to find help for your buddies.
Mm-hmm.
This is Bill Lundgren, the host of Blindsight. Remember, if you have any feedback for us, the feedback line is 720-712-8856, or the email is feedback@aftersight.org. Thank you all very much, and happy summer.